Everyone, we are back with Muslims Thrive on IG Live, 7 p.m. and today is Friday. So how are you all doing out there? Please join that. If you guys have any questions related to, please, come and, send your questions to me, to us, and we at Muslims Thrive, we always like to answer your questions and to know more about what are the issues that you're dealing with right now, what are the things that you're finding most challenging during coping with COVID, and uh, and then we're gonna kind of talk more about those things. But right now, just to kind of go into what does compassion fatigue? What does it mean? Right? And the idea behind that term is really the fact that you might have this sense of feeling physically and mentally exhausted, feeling really tired, feeling really, uh, being able to sort of really get the sense of feeling really down, and that could be like low energy, that could be feelings of sadness, that could be feeling of sorry, one are coming up. So before I continue, we're gonna just welcome Sarah. Hey.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
um Thanks for joining us
Of
today.
course, of
Yeah,
course. Had some technology issues, but no big deal.
I know, happens with all of us. I think our audience is used to it too. There's always something happening, but
Yeah,
yeah, but I was just kind of introducing the topic for today, and the fact that it's compassion fatigue,
yeah.
and going into what is compassion fatigue, right? And how it's something that can impact our physical and mental health,
Yes,
especially during this time, because we are, whether it's in a personal capacity or a professional capacity, as a friend, as a neighbor, as a family member, we could be taking on, this sort of sense of responsibility of taking care of the people around us,
for sure.
right?
Yep.
And then at the same time, like kind of having to acknowledge that it's going to have some kind of impact on our mental health.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a very important topic. And I actually had never heard the term, honestly, until we talked about chatting about this compassion burnout, compassion fatigue. Um, you know, I think in terms of caregiver, right? You have being a parent, you have being a child of elderly parents, you have, if you're in any sort of managerial role or you have a team of people that you manage at work, it is very tough. And I think one thing to like really chat about is just naturally knowing yourself and if you are an empathetic person, right? And if you are naturally wired that way to be an empath, how do you protect yourself from that burnout and that fatigue feeling? Again, I'm happy to share my personal experience. It completely crept up on me. Like, had no idea that it was even something I was experiencing. Because naturally, like we're people that want to support each other and help each other. And, here you are hearing all these stories of people losing loved ones or, being afraid of being ill or, having all the very serious, stressors in life. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I would love to kind of hear from a parent's perspective because I can speak to it from like a professional
Yeah.
standpoint and just having, older parents that
Mhm.
aren't close to me, right? And I know maybe a ton of the viewers and people that'll watch the video,
Yeah,
actually live with their parents, and that's a whole nother beast itself,
absolutely.
right? Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
Isma, I know you're a parent. I mean, what are some of the things that you feel from a compassion standpoint as a parent?
Yeah. I think you know what? with a parent, you know, you're being a parent, you're always kind of worried about your kids, right? And you worry about them more than you worry about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think during this time, you know, it's sort of this sense of that you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of your kids,
Yeah.
in a way that you have to minimize your potential exposure. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to leave the house, you know, to do groceries or whatever it is, or you're going to go into a situation where you might be potentially exposed, you have to think about your health, because you are now in this position where if you catch something, you could potentially give it to your kids. And I know that there's this sense of that it's not going to impact kids as much as adults, but kids are still carriers.
Mm-hmm.
That has been established already. So maybe, you know, if the kids, you know, maybe you give it to the kids are carrying it, give it to another adult. You never know. This is
Right.
sort of like we all have to kind of come together, recognize this.
Yep.
And so I feel like that's like a very, you know, like much added layer, that taking care of your kids has to do with taking care of you.
Mm.
You really have to think about your actions and how they're directly going to impact your kids in this case.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and then at the same time, giving them a sense of security while
Yeah.
you're in the home. And, you know, obviously they're seeing everything that's happening, you know, outside. Thankfully, like, you know, my daughter is older. I know people with younger kids are also struggling because, you know, they're working from home, the kids have school, you know, having to balance that. Or if they're even younger, the kids, they're not really understanding what's going on. Like, why aren't we going to school? Like, why can't I see my friends? Why can't I, you know, it's very limiting. And I feel like that brings up a lot of like frustration for the kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for parents, like, how do you talk to them about this? How do you explain things to them?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm seeing it from all different angles. Obviously, you know, we all have uh, friends and family with different age
Yeah.
children. You know, myself in particular, I am quarantined with my cousins. I think I may have mentioned that the other day. And, you know, I am just heartbroken for my 18-year-old, you know, niece. She is missing graduation, you know, missing the last like semester, you know, the last few
Yeah.
months of your last year of high school. And for an 18-year-old, that can be traumatic, right? Very traumatic. And you know, and again, I think this all kind of boils down to you know, taking care of our mental health and having it be the foundation of whatever you're dealing with, whatever age you are, whatever, you know, situation that you're in. You know, alhamdulillah, like the people that are in a safe spot, you know, healthy, not experiencing any loss,
Yeah.
no financial stress yet, you know, like
Yes.
in a good spot. You know, there's this guilt, right? We talked a little bit about it last time, where
Yeah.
it's like, you know, what right do I have to, you know, experience any sort of sadness or grief or anxiety or stress because I have it so good? But you know, I'll kind of switch gears a little bit, just more on compassion burnout. Like what I can offer is like, you know, just again a personal experience of like, if
Mm-hmm.
you are a person like me that is naturally, have just been an empath my whole life, you know, always, you know, looking to take care of people and making sure that everyone has what they need, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they're okay. And definitely I just, you know, whatever the case, wired that way from a young age. And
Yeah.
so, you know, now I'm kind of experiencing like an all or nothing. Like I either have to completely shut off my emotions when it comes to supporting other people, or
Mm-hmm.
else, you know, I'm just worried like I'm gonna, you
Yeah.
know, either have another panic attack or take on that anxiety. So you know, from a work perspective and just compassion burnout perspective, you know, I'm kind of overseeing and supporting a team of 14 people across different locations. Okay, so now we're completing week 5. I don't know where the time has gone, honestly.
I know.
You
Yeah.
know, and again, we're at the point where the degrees of separation is getting smaller and smaller. So now everyone knows someone, everyone is impacted in some way, or has heard a story, or
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, it's just the reality of it. And so what I was doing was being a super compassionate manager, just super compassionate, right?
Right.
And that's all I knew how to be, because it's like, you know, that's where you go to. You're like,
Right.
okay,
Absolutely.
I want to be understanding and I want to be sensitive to people. Like, none of us have been through this. So let me just, you know, overly support everyone, right? And I didn't know at the time what kind of impact that could have on myself. And
Yeah.
so I found myself, you know, almost 3 full weeks in a row, just back to back meetings and back to back one-on-ones and back to back conversations. And it just
Yeah.
felt like it was never ending, like work stopping, and then
Yeah.
friends, and then family. And it just was like, you know,
It's too much.
it's too much.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
It's
You're
too
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
like taking on that emotional burden, and we don't realize it. It's like
no.
layers on layers.
Yep. Yep.
And you know, and I, like, in my work as a therapist, you know, obviously, like, I'm hearing patients all day sort of talking about, like, the virus and how
Yes.
it's impacting their lives, and you know, and there's like different things that are happening with different people. Like, they have their stressors, and then this is on top of everything. And I think for me, you know, like, just my journey as a therapist, I've had to learn how to separate myself from that, and not to take on that emotional burden, and be able to sort of, you know, kind of separate myself
Yeah.
from it, and not carry it with me, not take it home. But now I am like, I'm working a lot more, actually. I'm like at home, but I'm still like working
Yeah.
the day,
Yeah.
and I'm finding myself more in it. And that is when, you know, like, those are times in my life where I found myself getting burnt out and having this passion fatigue, that I just feel like, oh my gosh, like, I can't give anymore, or feeling like stuck, and
Yeah.
feeling like this is so overwhelming. I need to
Yeah.
step back. I need to take a break.
Yep.
Um, but then sometimes not, you know, not recognizing that till later.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate that, Bisma, because here you are, a trained professional, right? Right. Like, you actually, you know, you chose this as your profession, as your career, to be a mental health, you know, provider, and a, you know, caregiver. And that's just really incredible. And, you know, I think for the people that just don't know how to set that boundary, right? Like, they really don't know how to separate. Like I said, it's like,
Absolutely.
you know, for someone that just has never experienced that kind of volume, I guess, like, we can,
Yeah.
okay, you get sad when a loved one, you know, goes through something traumatic or loses a loved one, or, you know, there's that feeling of compassion and empathy and sympathy that you can offer. And then, you know, okay, one person, you're sad a few days, you send, you know, a flowers or a card, and you kind
Right.
of go about your day. But then we are bombarded every single day, right? And it's not just one or two people. Like, you know, if you're like me, and I'm sure we're kind of all the same, we're on millions of
Yeah.
group chats with different friends. Uh-oh, you froze. I don't know if I'm frozen. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a point in the last 3 weeks where I was like, I couldn't even look at my phone. Honestly, I couldn't even look
Yeah.
at my phone. And like, when you have no escape from
Yeah.
the stress, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a lot
Yeah.
of what compassion burnout is. It's like,
Yes.
okay, if we have it at work, then we go to, you know, friends, or we go to family for support, and
Mm-hmm.
here they are in the same boat, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
how can you lean on other people that are also experiencing the same thing, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just like it's just this kind of vicious circle. I don't, you know, I don't know how else to explain it. It's
No.
just, it's basically like, you know, I'm going to be here to support my friends, you know, and I
Absolutely.
can be there to a point, and then now, you know, I have to go support my parents through what they're facing. And then
Mm-hmm.
um so I think, you know, again, with the burnout, it's about kind of knowing your boundaries and your limits, and they're not the
That's
same as they used to be, I
no.
think.
That's
Right. And
absolutely.
you may love your family and you love your friends so
Yeah.
much, And it's like, I don't know, you know, I'm a person, and people may relate to this. Like, I've never been great at saying no, right? Like, if
Yeah.
someone,
Yes.
right?
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if someone needs something and
Yeah.
I'm available and I can do it, like I'm gonna do it, right? And I'm not actually saying this as like, oh, I'm such a nice, compassionate person. It's 100% a weakness. Like it is 100%, you
Absolutely.
know,
When it
very
comes to
challenging.
boundaries, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Totally.
the thing.
So, you know, now again, as we're all into week 5 of this thing, about to go into week 6, you know, um, and and I think also what has been very interesting for me, I'm also working with international teams, and so I'm now kind of hearing perspectives across the world, right? And so, you
Absolutely.
know, it's kind of a cool thing, it's a beautiful thing, but then it's like, oh my gosh, but the people in India, you know, they can't even leave their house at all. You know,
Yeah.
they can't even walk, they
Absolutely.
can't even get fresh
Yeah.
air. They are literally on the kind of lockdown that would, it's like house arrest, you
Yeah.
know. And so
Absolutely.
anyway, back to the topic, you know,
Yeah.
this thing about compassion burnout. I mean, I think it all, again, all roads lead back to mental health and
Yeah.
self-care and the
Absolutely.
boundaries. And I think just there's one, Bisma, that I thought of. I wanted your opinion on it. It's like forgiveness. Like
Yeah.
just forgive yourself. Like
Absolutely.
stop with the judgment and
Yes.
stop with the pressure.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
we are so wired
Oh my
to
gosh. Yeah.
constantly be putting
Yes.
this unnecessary stress and like obligation, right? And you know, like it is the most difficult thing, right? To be able to like separate yourself from that feeling. But what
Yeah.
are some tips about that kind of unnecessary pressure or
Yeah.
judgment that we have of ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my patients are actually like struggling with this, you know, whether it's like studying for an exam, you know, whether it's sort of finding a new job, whether it's starting a new position, whether it's, you know, doing something else, attaining some other kind of goal. And I'm just like, you know, recognize that we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
You are not going to be as productive as you usually were.
Yeah.
You're all limited right now. Nothing, you're not going to make some kind of really great, you know, achievement or achieve great progress during this time. You're not going to be able to reach a milestone in your life. It's just not going to happen. Let's accept that our lives are somewhat on hold right now and that it's really about survival.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is where we're at. You know, there was a picture, and I was kind of conceptualizing this in my head, and then I saw like a picture on Facebook, which is exactly like, for those of you who are familiar with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And the very bottom is a cycle, you know, the physical needs and you know, psychological needs, and then at the very top is self-actualization.
Yeah.
We are at the bottom.
Yeah.
We are just about survival right now.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Eat well, sleep well,
Yeah.
and just focus on, you know, living day to day, doing whatever you can do.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay. I so, and like, I love this comment. Like, people are saying they just needed to hear this. And like, as we're sharing these stories with the community, like, I'm telling myself this, right? And it's just like, you know what? If I need a day off and I don't, like, we're all working from home and there's this kind, or like, you know, we still have a job, we're working from home, and there's people that don't have a job. But like, even if you're someone that's looking for a job right now, and I actually, you know, I work as a recruiting manager, and if anyone needs support, as I'm talking about compassion burnout, but if anyone needs support around resume review or any sort of encouragement, you know, please reach out to me. I'm absolutely available to offer just encouragement, support.
That's so sweet of you, Sarah.
Yeah, but it's all related, right?
I know.
Like,
it
it
is.
really
Absolutely.
is. So
I mean, that's why we're here on IG Live every day.
Yeah.
It's because we acknowledge that this is a really difficult time for all of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we also, as an organization, as Muslim Thrive, we needed to connect with everybody out there.
Yeah.
We needed to let you guys know that we're here and we're struggling and we understand you and we relate to you and we are there for you in all of this. We are all in this together.
Yep, for sure. I appreciate it. I know, and we'll wrap up in a couple minutes. I mean, I think the bottom line is, and I can't remember if I said this on the other talk, but again,
okay.
it's all the same, like, fundamentals, right? Like,
absolutely,
vulnerability is a strength, period. But like, for sure, right now, vulnerability is your strength, and it is actually how you're gonna get through this, right? Saying, like, I need help, saying I need support, saying like it's too much, saying that I'm sorry I can't help you right now, like saying that I need to take care of my mental health. It actually, like, is the, like, strongest. I know it feels like it's weak, but it's actually the strongest thing you could do for yourself right now and for others, right? And again, we're talking about compassion burnout. And if you cannot, you know, put yourself first, how can you be that mother? How can you be that manager? How can you be that son or daughter? Or how can you be, you know, any of the things, like all of the roles that we carry as human beings? You cannot do any of it, right? Like, you can't. And so that's what I literally am saying that because I'm trying to remind myself every day of it, that vulnerability is a strength right now. Just vulnerability is a strength. Like, I want to just say it a million times a day, that that it is. Like, actually, I'll just, one funny note, like, you know, I had a panic attack, my first panic attack 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Scariest thing I've ever been through. And here I was. Guess what I was worried about? I was worried about, I don't want my boss to think that I can't handle my job right now. Immediately, that's where I go to. And so, you know, and he was the kind of manager that actually forced me to take an extra day off. I actually took 3 whole days off
for him.
And I was bored, and I kind of was like, I want to work, but okay, cool. And so today I got to give that back to him. You know, he actually was struggling with, like, not sleeping and had some headaches and was dealing with, you know, just some family stuff. And I was like, no, you're not going to be in the afternoon meetings. Like, you're skipping all the afternoon meetings and you're not going to be there. And so maybe a solve for compassion burnout is actually just, like, being compassionate for yourself first.
Absolutely.
And then you're able to be compassionate for others. And then it's more healthy and it's a balance. So
absolutely. So on that note,
yes,
we have to end.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Sarah, for all of the words of wisdom.
Always.
You know, I feel like this was great. And thank you, all of you, for tuning in. And we are going to be back on Monday.
Yes. So I love you too. I love you guys. There's so many amazing people on this little chat. I love it. Yes, please watch the story. It's 20 minutes. Like, anything you guys need, we're here for you. And we're just, you know, we're all, like, again, we're all in this together. You're not alone. And that's the bottom line. So thank you. Bye-bye.